My name is Camille Reed, and I'm 37 years old. For more than 6 years, I have dedicated my career to Pacifica Dynamics, a boutique technology consultancy based on the rain-soaked docks of Vancouver, British Columbia. Every morning, I walk through the lobby's sweeping glass facade, nod to the barista who knows my order by heart, and climb the polished steel staircase to my corner office overlooking Falls Creek. When I first joined in the spring of 2019, Pacifica Dynamics was a scrappy team of fewer than 30 engineers, united by a shared passion for solving complex infrastructure puzzles. Back then, Maya Liang, our co-founder and CEO, promised that loyal, high-performing team members would rise through the ranks. "Camille," she told me during my interview, "we hire for skill and heart. You stay, you grow." I believed her, and I doubled down. I spearheaded our first cloud migration project for a mid-sized healthcare provider, meticulously mapping every database and API call. I volunteered for midnight emergency calls when servers crashed under holiday traffic. I mentored interns who arrived wide-eyed and left confident enough to lead their own projects. Year after year, my performance reviews praised my unwavering dedication, technical brilliance, and leadership that inspires. But whenever Maya mentioned new executive roles or restructured our management team, the same refrain surfaced. "Patience, Camille. We're evolving, and the right opportunity will appear." That opportunity never arrived. Instead, the consultancy ballooned to over 100 employees, with satellite offices in Seattle and Munich. We landed marquee clients in renewable energy and finance. Yet positions I assumed I'd compete for, like Director of Cloud Architecture, either morphed into Director of Digital Innovation or were given to external hires with polished resumes and little understanding of our code base. 6 months ago, Maya announced that her niece, Alessia Liang, would join Pacifica Dynamics as engagement specialist. Alessia, fresh from the University of British Columbia with a degree in business analytics, was introduced as the future of our strategic initiatives. She settled into a cubicle just steps from Maya's office. I greeted her cordially, showed her our continuous integration pipelines, and answered her questions about disaster recovery protocols. I did so because I believed in mentorship. Someone once did that for me. But whispers circulated that the soon-to-be-open Director of Cloud Services position, one I had been informally preparing for since 2020, was earmarked for Alessia. I tried to dismiss it as rumor, but unease tightened inside me each time I saw Maya's quick smile in Alessia's direction. Then 3 weeks ago, I overheard Maya and David Russo, our COO, speaking behind closed doors. Their voices carried through the hallway crack under Maya's office door. "The board loves MBAs who can present slick decks," Maya said. David replied, "Camille is reliable but not flashy enough for keynote demos." I froze, realizing that years of dedication meant little when family ties and optics took precedence. I backed away quietly before they noticed me listening. That night, I replayed every project I had led, every emergency I had resolved, and every late-night call I had answered for Pacifica Dynamics. And I understood it was time to decide whether to remain patient or to reclaim my own future. The next morning, I arrived at Pacifica Dynamics with an uneasy calm. The rain had eased to a light mist, but the air felt heavy. I passed through the lobby, greeting the barista with a curt nod, and headed for the third-floor corridor where Alessia's cubicle sat. She looked up at me, excitement in her eyes that I could almost taste. She still believed in the promise of this place. "Good morning, Camille," she said, pushing a stack of printouts toward me. "I've been trying to get our Azure cost analysis to match the dashboard figures. Can you help me understand the tagging conventions on those resource groups?" I sat down beside her and scanned the documents. Orphaned storage accounts, mistagged virtual networks, ambiguous policies that I had originally designed for a different client. Alessia's brow furrowed as she struggled to correlate policy names with actual resource IDs. For the next hour, I walked her through the naming schema, explained how those tags prevented budget overruns, and showed her the scripts I had written to enforce governance. She took furious notes on her tablet, asking questions about regex patterns and PowerShell modules. As we worked, I noticed colleagues passing by, casting sympathetic glances in my direction. I wondered if they too had heard the rumors about my stalled promotion and the nepotism that had rerouted a 6-year career to someone fresh out of university. Some of them probably assumed I would bend under the weight of Maya's authority, keep my head down, and wait for Fortuna's wheel to turn in my favor. But every explanation I offered to Alessia felt like a final lesson, a precious fragment of knowledge I would soon take with me. By lunchtime, we had resolved the cost report discrepancy and submitted the corrected analysis to our financial controller. Alessia looked at me gratefully. "Camille, seriously, I don't know what I'd have done without you." I smiled and nodded, but inside a resolve had crystallized. I would no longer be the silent architect of someone else's advancement. Over the next few days, I discreetly updated my resume, tailored cover letters for roles in Seattle and Calgary, and reached out to former clients whose trust I had earned. I scheduled coffee meetings with recruiters who praised my reputation. "Camille, your name comes up whenever there's a mission-critical migration," one recruiter told me. I felt a shift in momentum, as though I were gathering up years of expertise into a compact form that other companies would devour. Each night I returned home to Jordan, who listened patiently as I mapped out potential offers and weighed benefits. "You taught Alessia everything she knows," Jordan said. "Now it's time someone other than family to recognize your worth." And so, with each passing day, my choices grew clearer. I would hand in my notice, guide Alessia through her first solo client engagement, and step boldly into a role that valued both skill and commitment, leaving behind a consultancy that had forgotten how to honor its promises. By the middle of the week, I could feel the shift in the air at Pacifica Dynamics. My inbox carried attention I had never experienced before, meeting requests from the HR director, off-the-record hallway whispers, and a new sense of guarded curiosity from my peers. Yet I felt oddly liberated, as though a weight was lifting every time I corrected a misconfiguration or shared another notebook entry with Alessia. I was no longer merely teaching her. Each session reaffirmed my own value. On Thursday afternoon, I booked a private meeting with Maya in her office. I arrived punctually, shelved any emotion, and knocked on the doorframe. "Camille, come in," she said, with that familiar warm smile that used to inspire me. I closed the door behind me and sat in the leather chair across from her desk, which was strewn with conference programs and half-drunk mugs of tea. "Maya, I wanted to talk about the upcoming Director of Cloud Services role," I began evenly. "I understand the company is exploring candidates." Her smile faltered for a moment. "Yes, we're still finalizing the job description," she replied. "It's a critical position. We want someone who can lead our global cloud practice and represent us at keynotes." I nodded. I had rehearsed this many times in my head. "I appreciate that you'd consider candidates outside our current team," I said calmly. "But after 6 years of leading every major migration, building our CI/CD pipelines, and ensuring zero downtime deployments for our top clients, I expected to be in the final discussion." Her gaze softened and she leaned forward. "Camille, you know how much we value your technical leadership." Then she paused, looking at the framed photo of her and Alessia at a family gathering. "But Alessia brings fresh strategic perspectives and storytelling skills. The board believes she can shape our narrative." I took a steadying breath. "Maya, I respect Alessia, but I have real-world experience maintaining production environments under pressure. I'm not dismissing her potential, but the technical side of this role matters." She sighed, closing her eyes briefly. "I understand your frustration, but we made a commitment to the board about inviting MBA talent into leadership. It's a strategic decision beyond my control." At that moment, I felt clarity wash over me. I realized that no amount of reasoning would change their course. "Thank you for your honesty," I said. "Given that commitment, I will be submitting my resignation tomorrow. I intend to give 2 weeks' notice and ensure a smooth handover of ongoing projects." Maya looked taken aback. "Resignation? Camille, please?" I stood and offered a firm nod. "I love this company and our team, but I need a new environment where my contributions are recognized. I'll prepare detailed transition documents and train Alessia herself if necessary." As I turned to leave, Maya's voice softened. "You're making a big mistake." I paused at the door, glanced back, and replied quietly, "Perhaps, but it's my choice." Then I stepped into the corridor, my heart surprisingly calm, ready for the next chapter of my career. Friday morning dawned with a gentle Vancouver drizzle, and the Pacifica Dynamics lobby felt unusually silent. I walked in knowing today would be the day I delivered my notice. My heart beat steadily, fueled by resolve rather than fear. I greeted the barista with a polite "thank you" as she handed me my usual latte, then took a deep breath and headed to Maya's office. Inside, Maya and David Russo were deep in conversation over the Director of Cloud Services posting. Alessia's name was already on the board's shortlist, they said. I waited until David stepped out, clutching a folder of performance metrics, and cleared my throat. Maya looked up, surprised to see me. "I promised you transition documents by end of day," I began, placing a thick packet of printed guides on her desk. "Here are the detailed runbooks, architecture diagrams, and stakeholder contacts for every active engagement." Maya opened the top sheet and scanned the table of contents. "Thank you, Camille. This is incredibly thorough." I nodded, exhaled slowly, and slid a crisp envelope across the lacquered wood. "This is my 2 weeks' notice." Maya froze, her pen hovering above the page. "I'm resigning effective 2 Fridays from now. I'm grateful for everything I've learned here, but it's time for me to move to a new role where my technical leadership will be fully valued." She blinked, then looked up at the framed family photos on her desk. "Camille, please, don't do this. You're indispensable." I kept my tone calm. "I've reflected on this for weeks. I admire Alessia and I trust she'll do well, but her promotion path and the board's directive leave no room for my advancement here." Maya's shoulders slumped. "I understand more than you think, but if you stay, we could create a Chief Solutions Officer position just for you." I shook my head gently. "That title alone won't address my concerns." I need a role defined by real responsibilities, not by new labels. She swallowed hard, then reached out as if to retract something. I turned and left her office, feeling a strange lightness. In the corridor, colleagues peered from behind their cubicles. Some nodded in support, others looked uncertain. I returned to my desk and set my out-of-office flag for Monday, then spent the next hour compiling emails to clients, letting them know who would succeed my role. By midday, I had sent every client a personal message. It's been an honor managing your cloud infrastructure. I will transition our partnership to Alessia Liang, supported by our team's detailed documentation. Responses trickled back. Gratitude for my service and best wishes for my next chapter. That evening, as I left the building for the last time before my notice, I felt a quiet exhilaration. I knew challenges lay ahead, but for the first time in years, I was charting my own course. The weekend that followed felt surreal. I woke on Saturday without my usual knot of morning anxiety, brewed coffee at leisure, and sat by the window watching raindrops race down the glass. Jordan joined me on the couch, wrapped in a woolen blanket. "How do you feel?" they asked. I paused, considering. "Free," I replied. "For the first time in years, my next steps depend on me alone." That afternoon, I reviewed notes for my upcoming interview with HeliosTech in Seattle. HeliosTech was a mid-sized firm specializing in edge computing solutions for autonomous vehicles. They had reached out after a mutual contact forwarded my resume. I polished my portfolio of architecture diagrams, updated my LinkedIn summary to emphasize leadership in large-scale migrations, and rehearsed concise stories demonstrating how I had saved critical systems from catastrophic failure. Every anecdote showcased not just technical prowess, but the human side of collaboration under pressure. On Sunday, I dedicated time to finalize the transition plan for Alessia. I enumerated each client engagement in a spreadsheet with detailed bullet points, 123 discrete tasks across 5 active projects. I drafted email templates for internal teams, highlighting who to contact for incident response and linking to knowledge base articles I had authored. In the final section, I offered Alessia a roadmap for her first solo client meeting, complete with recommended talking points and escalation procedures. This thoroughness felt like both closure and a gift, a demonstration of the respect I still held for the firm and for my mentee. Monday morning arrived with a pale dawn light slanting through the office blinds. I greeted Alessia at her desk, handed her a printed copy of the roadmap, and said, "This document will guide you through tomorrow's Nova Vector systems audit. Take your time and ask questions if anything seems unclear." She nodded, eyes bright but apprehensive. "Thank you, Camille," she whispered. "I'll do my best." Later that morning, I took an early train to Seattle. The crisp air and glass towers of downtown reminded me of the possibilities beyond my former company. At HeliosTech's headquarters, I was greeted by Emma Dow, their Director of Talent Acquisition. We discussed my experience leading cross-region deployments, my strategy for reducing latency in distributed networks, and my vision for scaling a 25-engineer team. I left the interview with a confident handshake and a sense that my skills aligned perfectly with their mission. That evening, back in Vancouver, I returned to Pacifica Dynamics to tackle a minor client incident for Nova Vector. Alessia had successfully navigated the audit, and her first client call ended with gratitude rather than confusion. Watching her handle the challenge with growing confidence, I felt the rightness of my choice. I was passing the torch to someone I had helped grow, while forging a new path for myself, one defined by equity, recognition, and true professionals. Fulfillment. My first week at HeliosTech unfolded in a whirlwind of introductions, whiteboard sessions, and rapid-fire problem-solving. On Tuesday morning, I joined my new manager, Raj Patel, and our engineering leadership team for a Sprint Zero kickoff. We hashed out our priorities for migrating 3 pilot clients onto HeliosTech's proprietary edge compute platform. As I shared my experience optimizing Kubernetes clusters and designing low-latency data pipelines, I felt a familiar spark of purpose ignite within me. That afternoon, Raj paired me with Lena Murray, the solutions architect I would co-lead the Pacific Northwest region with. Lena was smart, energetic, and eager to learn from someone with my background. We mapped out a phased approach. First, establish proof-of-concept environments for aerospace clients. Next, implement automated blue-green deployments. Finally, integrate telemetry dashboards for real-time monitoring. By week's end, we had cleared the initial backlog and impressed our internal stakeholders with a detailed 2-week roadmap. Meanwhile, back at Pacifica Dynamics, I remained committed to my transition obligations. Each evening, I logged into Slack to answer Alessia's questions about configuring Terraform modules, debugging Azure Functions errors, or fine-tuning our Jenkins pipelines. I reviewed her pull requests, leaving comments on code style and test coverage, and bolstered her confidence with affirmative feedback. "You're doing great work," I told her. "Trust your judgments and lean on the team when necessary." On Thursday, I received an unexpected message, a thank you note from Nova Vector Systems. Their CTO wrote, "We appreciate Camille's thorough handover. Alessia managed the audit flawlessly. We look forward to continuing our partnership. I forwarded this to Alessia, who replied with a string of emojis and heartfelt gratitude. My heart swelled, knowing that my efforts had set her up for success, even as I built mine elsewhere. By Friday, HeliosTech had invited me to present at an internal Lightning Talks series. I delivered a concise 20-minute session on building resilient edge compute infrastructures, complete with real-world case studies and best practices. Questions from colleagues ranged from container orchestration strategies to cost optimization tactics. Their engagement and positive feedback confirmed my decision. I belonged here. That evening, as I reviewed my calendar for the following week, I realized that my professional journey had come full circle. I had left Pacifica Dynamics with dignity and thoughtfulness, trained my successor, and now found myself in a role that valued my expertise. Wherever the coming months led, I knew I had reclaimed ownership of my career and proved that true recognition comes not from family ties, but from earned respect. Monday of my second week at HeliosTech began with a client-facing workshop that I had helped design. A hands-on lab for Atlas Robotics, one of our autonomous drone customers. Raj and I arrived early at their downtown Seattle office, set up laptops on the conference room table, and prepared to coach their engineers through configuring secure VPN tunnels and setting up service meshes on edge nodes. As participants joined, I felt the familiar thrill of sharing knowledge in real time and watching minds light up with understanding. Back in Vancouver on Tuesday evening, I logged into Pacifica Dynamics Slack workspace for what would be my final live support session. Alessia had encountered a misrouted webhook in our GitLab CI pipeline that was causing deployment failures for one of our renewable energy clients. She wrote, "Camille, I've retraced the logs, but the webhook URL doesn't match our variables. Any ideas?" I guided her through checking environment variable scopes, explained how AWS Secrets Manager could centralize credential storage, and showed her how to update the pipeline YAML to invoke the correct webhook URL. Within an hour, her pipeline succeeded, and Alessia posted, "That worked perfectly. Thank you." I smiled, proud that my last contributions at Pacifica Dynamics would be seeds for her continued growth. On Wednesday, HeliosTech's executive team asked me to contribute to strategic planning for our expansion into the Pacific Rim market. I reviewed performance metrics from our pilot clients, identified key latency bottlenecks, and proposed a phased approach to regional data center deployment, leveraging container-based edge nodes for resilient failover. My presentation spanned 45 minutes, after which the CTO asked insightful follow-up questions. The board's enthusiastic reception confirmed that my transition to HeliosTech was the right move. That evening, I grabbed dinner with Jordan at our favorite waterfront bistro, over crab cakes and a crisp Sauvignon Blanc. I recounted the day's workshop successes, the smooth pipeline handover, and the positive response from HeliosTech's leadership. Jordan toasted to new beginnings and whispered, "You've never looked more alive in your work." On Thursday morning, I completed my final transition document for Pacifica Dynamics, a comprehensive lessons learned slide deck covering 6 years of my lessons. Architectural decisions, what had worked, what we would do differently, and recommendations for future system designs. I sent it to Maya with a note. "This deck captures the core of my practice. May it guide the team well." Friday arrived with a sense of culmination. At HeliosTech's headquarters, I received word from the recruiting team. They were extending a formal offer as Regional Cloud Practice Lead, complete with a robust benefits package and a clear path to director-level responsibilities. I accepted with gratitude, knowing that my career trajectory was now in my own hands, shaped by merit, not by pedigree. The Monday after accepting HeliosTech's offer, I arrived at our Seattle office with renewed purpose. My new title, Regional Cloud Practice Lead, felt both earned and invigorating. Raj welcomed me with a firm handshake and introduced me to the expanded team. 5 solutions architects and 3 DevOps engineers spread across 2 time zones. I spent the morning conducting one-on-one meetings to understand each member's strengths and challenges, building rapport and setting expectations for collaboration and growth. Later that afternoon, I reviewed our partnership dossier with Aeronet Solutions, an emerging client specializing in satellite-based connectivity for remote communities. Their CTO requested a pilot for dynamically routing data through edge servers in Alaska and northern Canada. I sketched an architecture on the whiteboard, containerized microservices that could spin up in under 30 seconds, an overlay network secured by mutual TLS, and automated failover strategies using DNS-weighted routing. The team leaned in, asking detailed questions about certificate rotation and throughput limits. By the meeting's close, Aeronet's leadership was enthusiastic, committing to a proof of concept. Back in Vancouver that evening, I logged into Pacifica Dynamics' Slack one final time. Alessia had completed her first solo client meeting with Greenleaf Renewables without any intervention. She posted a message in the Number Cloud Services channel. Thanks to Camille's documentation, I navigated the complex billing policies and compliance standards. Feeling more confident today, I replied with encouragement and quietly left the channel, closing that chapter of my career with satisfaction. On Wednesday, HeliosTech's CTO tasked me with drafting a market entry plan for Europe's aviation sector. I analyzed regional compliance requirements, GDPR-compliant data collection for telemetry, cross-border data sovereignty controls, and latency-sensitive service-level agreements. I collaborated with legal counsel to ensure our edge compute nodes would adhere to local regulations. Presenting my plan to the executive committee, I mapped projected revenue, technical resource allocation, and a 6-month timeline. The board approved the proposal unanimously, praising its thoroughness and strategic vision. Thursday brought a teach and learn session where I facilitated a workshop on disaster recovery drills. We simulated a complete data center outage, executing scripted procedures to redirect traffic to backup nodes and restore services within our 2 hours minute recovery time objective. Watching the team execute flawlessly, I felt pride in how effective preparation and clear runbooks could avert real-world crises. That Friday, I flew back to Vancouver for a weekend retreat organized by HeliosTech's Leadership Development Program. Surrounded by peers and mentors, I reflected on the journey from Pacifica Dynamics to HeliosTech. I realized that stepping away from a place that no longer recognized my worth opened doors to environments where merit, dedication, and expertise truly matter, a lesson I would carry forward in every project and partnership. The following Monday began with a flurry of emails from our new European prospects. I reviewed each inquiry over my morning espresso, questions about edge compute latency in the Swiss Alps, secure data replication across Italian networks, and cost projections for pilot deployments in Sweden. I prioritized them by strategic impact and crafted personalized responses detailing how our microsegmented architecture could meet even the strictest data sovereignty requirements. By midday, I met virtually with Helena Morozova, CTO of Baltic Aerolink, an Estonian company exploring real-time analytics for drone delivery routes. Helena's team was concerned about network jitter affecting telemetry feedback loops. I walked them through our jitter buffer algorithms and edge caching strategies that pre-process data locally before uploading summary metrics to central servers. A live demonstration using a simulated test bench convinced them our solution could maintain sub-10 millisecond consistency under variable network conditions. After the call, I documented the session's key takeaways in our shared Confluence space, tagging Lena Murray and our DevOps lead, Mark Tan, for follow-up on performance tuning scripts. I appreciated how HeliosTech's culture emphasized knowledge sharing. Every insight became a resource for the whole team, not a personal trophy. That afternoon, I returned a quick message to Alessia at Pacifica Dynamics. Feel free to reach out if you hit any hurdles with the Nova Vector integration. She replied almost instantly. Thank you, Camille. Just wrapped up my first code review of a Terraform module. Went smoothly thanks to your style guide. Seeing her confidence grow reminded me of my own early days and underscored the importance of solid documentation and mentorship. On Wednesday, I flew to Munich for a regional summit. In the elegant conference center overlooking the Isar River, I delivered a keynote on scaling edge compute for safety-critical applications. I shared case studies from Atlas Robotics and Baltic Aerolink, illustrating how our approach balanced performance with compliance. After the talk, industry leaders approached me to discuss potential collaborations, another sign that my expertise was now not only recognized but sought after on an international stage. Returning to Seattle on Thursday, I coordinated with our finance team to finalize pricing models for the Estonian and Swiss pilots, ensuring margins accounted for localized operational costs. Friday wrapped up with a team retrospective on our first quarter's successes and lessons learned. Lena and Mark highlighted how my strategic frameworks had accelerated client onboarding by 30%, while I commended their flawless execution in high-pressure scenarios. That evening, as I packed for the weekend, I reflected on how far I had come, from mentoring my successor under duress to leading global initiatives that shaped our industry's future. The journey reaffirmed a simple truth. True advancement follows when skill, dedication, and opportunity converge, without the crutch of nepotism or compromise. Monday began quietly, with rain pattering against my office window in Seattle. I reviewed the week's priorities, finalized contracts for HeliosTech's Pacific Rim expansion, oversee pilot deployments in Munich and Tallinn, and mentor Lena on her first solo client presentation. After responding to a few early emails, I joined a virtual roundtable with our Japan subsidiary. They had questions about integrating our edge nodes with local 5G carriers, each with proprietary network slicing protocols. I proposed a modular adapter layer, allowing us to swap carrier-specific APIs without altering core services, and sketched the design in real time on Miro. Colleagues in Tokyo and Osaka expressed relief at the clarity, and we agreed on next steps for a proof-of-concept deployment in Osaka Bay. Later, I prepared for a midday check-in with Alessia at Pacifica Dynamics. Despite my departure months ago, I still found satisfaction in her growth. During our video call, she reported successfully automating backup snapshots across multiple Azure subscriptions and presented a live demo of her custom PowerShell scripts. Seeing her confidence reminded me of what mentorship could achieve, and of why I had chosen to leave when my own advancement was stifled by nepotism rather than merit. On Tuesday afternoon, I conducted a workshop for our HeliosTech sales team, translating complex technical concepts into compelling business value propositions. We role-played a pitch to a hypothetical mining equipment manufacturer in Australia, emphasizing how edge compute could optimize remote equipment diagnostics and reduce downtime by up to 20%. The sales executives appreciated the concrete examples and requested additional data sheets to support their proposals. I assigned Mark to create infographics summarizing performance improvements and Lena to gather client testimonials. Wednesday brought a surprise, an invitation to join the board meeting at our Vancouver satellite office. In the glass-walled boardroom overlooking Falls Creek, ironically the view I once had as a Pacifica Dynamics employee, I presented our Pacific Rim business case and shared metrics from recent pilot successes. 99.9% uptime, 20 millisecond average latency, and 30% cost savings on data egress. The board approved our expansion plan and budget, praising the data-driven approach and the strength of our technical strategy. On Thursday, I attended a mentoring session for HeliosTech's Emerging Leaders program. I coached 5 high-potential engineers on career navigation, emphasizing the importance of advocating for one's work, building relationships, and ensuring visibility of contributions. Their questions about negotiation, personal branding, and work-life balance reminded me of my own path. By Friday, I received a notification from Baltic Aerolink's CTO. They were ready to scale their pilot into full production, accelerating our timeline by 2 quarters. I closed my laptop with satisfaction, knowing that my journey, from a frustrated architect sidelined by nepotism to a recognized leader driving global growth, had come full circle. True recognition, I realized, is earned through excellence and integrity, not inherited through connections. Monday morning arrived with a new challenge. Our HeliosTech team learned that a critical supplier in South Korea was experiencing intermittent network outages, jeopardizing real-time data replication for an automotive client. Raj and I convened an urgent call with our partner's IT leadership, navigating the 9-hour time difference. I proposed rerouting traffic through our backup edge nodes in Taiwan and adjusting our circuit breaker thresholds to prevent cascading failures. By carefully scripting our network policies and leveraging DNS-based failover, we restored seamless connectivity within 3 hours, well under our 4-hour service level objective. That evening, I checked in with Alessia one final time. She had just led her first full project retrospective at Pacifica Dynamics, presenting lessons learned to the engineering team. She thanked me for my ongoing guidance, noting that her confidence had grown exponentially since I departed. I reminded her that true leadership stemmed from trusted relationships, not titles alone, and encouraged her to continue advocating for herself and her team. On Tuesday, I traveled to Vancouver for a board offsite focused on HeliosTech's 5-year strategic roadmap. The agenda included evaluating potential acquisitions and exploring new verticals, like maritime monitoring and disaster management. I contributed my analysis on edge compute applications for offshore platforms, citing case studies where subsea sensors required ultra-low latency processing. My recommendations were met with enthusiasm, and I was invited to lead a task force exploring partnerships with oceanographic research institutes. By Wednesday, I returned to Seattle and spent the afternoon mentoring Lena through her first solo client negotiation. She faced resistance from a European telecom provider reluctant to adopt our licensing model. I coached her on framing the value proposition in terms of total cost of ownership and regulatory compliance. Lena secured a pilot agreement by emphasizing flexibility in contract terms and service guarantees, a clear demonstration of how my mentorship continued to yield results. Thursday brought word that HeliosTech's renewable energy division wanted to pilot our edge solutions for wind turbine performance analytics. I drafted a project proposal highlighting our predictive maintenance algorithms, projected 30% reduction in unplanned downtime, and integration with existing SCADA systems. The proposal received immediate approval, and I assembled a cross-functional team to begin scoping within 24 hours. On Friday, I reflected on a month of milestones: rapid outage mitigation in South Korea, strategic contributions at the board retreat, successful client negotiations, and the launch of a new renewable energy pilot. Each achievement underscored the power of combining technical expertise with clear communication and decisive leadership. As I packed my laptop, I felt a profound sense of purpose, knowing that I had transformed adversity into opportunity and built a career defined by merit, not nepotism. The following Monday, I kicked off the week with a deep dive into our customer success metrics. HeliosTech's dashboard flashed green across most regions, but the Australia-Pacific segment showed a slight uptick in support tickets, mostly around configuration adjustments for our edge compute gateways. I scheduled a working session with the regional support lead, Marcus Liu, and together we pinpointed a recurring race condition in our Bootstrap scripts. By refactoring the initialization sequence and adding a health check loop, we reduced related tickets by 80% within 24 hours. That afternoon, I received an unexpected ping from Maya at Pacifica Dynamics. Her tone was courteous but urgent. Camille, we've been invited to speak at the upcoming Cloud Practice Summit in Calgary. Would you be willing to join Alessia on stage to share your combined experiences? I smiled at the offer, an opportunity to close that chapter on a high note. I agreed and began drafting an outline highlighting collaborative lessons, the importance of thorough documentation, structured mentorship, and clear communication during transitions. On Tuesday, I led a brainstorming session with our HeliosTech R&D team to explore next-generation functionality for container orchestration at the edge. We sketched out concepts like predictive autoscaling based on machine learning insights derived from IoT sensor data. The whiteboard filled with diagrams of feedback loops, neural network predictors, and anomaly detection modules. By session's end, we had a proof of concept plan to begin prototyping in 2 weeks. Wednesday was dedicated to client engagements. I joined a 3-way call with our maritime pilot partner, Ocean Watch Systems, and their IT director, Lars Jensen. Their concerns centered on intermittent packet loss affecting real-time vessel tracking. I recommended implementing forward error correction at the application layer and tuning our UDP-based telemetry streams for redundancy. Lars approved the plan, and we arranged a live test that afternoon, successful enough to move the project toward full deployment. Thursday saw me preparing for the Calgary Summit. I crafted slides illustrating our journey, the seamless handover at Pacifica Dynamics, the rapid impact we achieved at HeliosTech, and the strategic vision guiding our global expansion. I rehearsed my talking points with Lena, ensuring our co-presentation with Alessia would feel cohesive and insightful. On Friday, I flew to Calgary. Standing beside Alessia on the Cloud Practice Summit stage, I felt a profound sense of closure and pride. Together, we shared our story, how fair recognition and genuine mentorship fostered success on both sides of the podium. The audience response, a standing ovation, affirmed that true leadership transcends titles. It resides in the impact we leave on others and the integrity with which we navigate our careers. The morning after the Calgary Summit, I woke to a flurry of congratulatory messages on LinkedIn and Slack. Colleagues from Pacifica Dynamics, HeliosTech, and even conference attendees were reaching out to connect. As I sipped coffee on the hotel balcony, snow-capped Rockies glowing in the dawn light, I felt the culmination of years of effort crystallize into a clear vision for my future. Back in Seattle on Tuesday, I dove into post-summit follow-ups. The marketing team asked for a recorded version of my presentation to share with prospects in Asia, so I collaborated with our video production lead, Theo, to review the raw footage and embed key takeaways into an on-demand webinar. By the afternoon, the polished recording was live on our partner portal, ready to drive lead generation for the next quarter. Later that day, I held a mentoring lunch with Lena and 2 junior architects, Carlos and Nina. Over Thai food, we discussed career goals, work-life balance, and strategies for advocating for our accomplishments within large organizations. I shared my own journey, from waiting years for recognition at Pacifica Dynamics to forging a path based on merit, and emphasized building trust through transparent communication and consistent delivery. Their questions about negotiation tips and crafting technical proposals reminded me how essential it is to pay wisdom forward. On Wednesday, I received an urgent notification. A critical cold storage monitoring client in Norway had experienced a firmware glitch on their edge compute appliances, causing intermittent data loss. I convened a war room call with our support engineers and the client's on-site team. Guiding them through a hot patch rollout and a rollback procedure, I ensured minimal downtime. By nightfall, the client confirmed stable telemetry streams, praising our rapid response and clear guidance. Thursday brought a strategic planning retreat at our Bellevue office. Executive leadership tasked me with identifying 3 new verticals where HeliosTech's edge compute platform could gain traction. I proposed healthcare monitoring, real-time vital sign analysis in remote clinics, predictive maintenance for wind farms in South America, and supply chain traceability for cold chain logistics. Each recommendation was backed by market data, pilot project results, and a 5-step go-to-market plan. The board approved initiating exploratory talks in those sectors immediately. That evening, as I reviewed my calendar for the coming weeks, I realized how far I'd come. From a sidelined architect at Pacifica Dynamics to a sought-after leader shaping global edge compute strategy at HeliosTech. And through it all, I had remained true to my values: mentorship, integrity, and relentless dedication, proving that authentic leadership transcends birthplace, pedigree, or family ties. Monday morning began with a surprise invitation. HeliosTech's CEO, Elaine Harper, asked me to join a high-level discussion with our partners at NovaWave Communications, a leading provider of satellite internet services in the Pacific Rim. Their chief network officer, Hiroshi Nakamura, had requested our expertise to optimize latency for maritime vessels navigating the South China Sea. We convened via video conference, and I presented a proposal for deploying compact edge compute nodes on offshore platforms, leveraging adaptive data compression and intelligent routing algorithms to minimize round-trip times. Hiroshi's team tested our prototype configuration that very afternoon, a lightweight container running predictive caching models placed at sea-level telemetry buoys. Within hours, they reported a 40% reduction in jitter and improved packet delivery rates, metrics that exceeded their expectations. The successful trial prompted NovaWave to fast-track a regional rollout, and I was tasked with overseeing the deployment schedule across 5 shipping lanes. On Tuesday, I coordinated with our supply chain team to secure hardware shipments for the NovaWave pilot. I negotiated expedited manufacturing of specialized enclosures that could withstand saltwater corrosion and extreme humidity. Working closely with Lena and Mark, we crafted installation guides and remote monitoring dashboards to ensure onboard technicians could manage the nodes with minimal training. By evening, the first shipment was en route, and I shared tracking details with all stakeholders. Wednesday brought a call from Pacifica Dynamics, this time from Alessia. She invited me to mentor her in refining a proposal for a new client in the renewable energy sector. Although no longer on their payroll, I agreed to review her draft white paper on integrating IoT sensors with cloud edge architectures. I provided feedback on structuring the executive summary and suggested additional case studies to strengthen her credibility. Alessia's gratitude reminded me once more of the lasting impact of genuine mentorship. On Thursday, HeliosTech's leadership development program held a roundtable on diversity and inclusion in tech. I shared my story of navigating corporate politics, advocating for merit-based advancement, and supporting underrepresented colleagues. The session sparked candid conversations and inspired new initiatives to promote equitable career paths within our organization. Friday concluded with a celebration at HeliosTech's Seattle headquarters. We toasted the successful NovaWave trial and the upcoming Leadership Summit where I would present again. As I raised my glass, I reflected on how stepping away from one company's constraints had opened doors to meaningful collaboration, global impact, and the chance to foster growth in others. Proof that true leadership flourishes when values align with opportunity. The final Monday of my first quarter as Regional Cloud Practice Lead began with a sense of momentum. Our NovaWave deployment was slated to go live in 3 Pacific shipping lanes, and I was scheduled to fly to Hong Kong the following week to oversee the kickoff. But before that, a final challenge awaited me in Seattle, supervising an end-to-end drill of our disaster recovery processes with Pacifica Dynamics as an external observer. Maya herself requested my involvement to validate the rigor of our failover playbooks. I arrived at the Pacifica Dynamics Vancouver office by video link, sharing my screen with Alessia and her team. We simulated a complete regional outage. Database clusters went offline, core microservices failed over to secondary regions, and disaster recovery runbooks were executed in real time. Alessia coordinated the team flawlessly, following the very procedures I had crafted during my tenure. The application failed over within our 2-minute objective, and services restored seamlessly. Maya watched with evident pride, then turned to Alessia. Well done! Camille's framework set the standard. That afternoon, I returned to HeliosTech's offices and drafted a public case study, co-branded with NovaWave, detailing the measurable benefits of edge compute in maritime environments. The case study highlighted metrics such as 40% jitter reduction, sub-20 millisecond latency guarantees, and a projected $1 million annual savings per vessel. Our marketing team planned a webinar around these findings, positioning HeliosTech at the forefront of marine edge innovation. On Wednesday, I convened a strategy meeting with our Asia-Pacific account managers to align upcoming client pitches with the newly released case study. We refined slide decks, updated technical data sheets, and rehearsed Q&A sessions covering everything from container orchestration best practices to compliance with Maritime Safety Administration regulations. The enthusiasm in the room was palpable. Our successes had created a ripple effect across multiple verticals. Thursday brought a personal milestone, my 100th published technical blog post on HeliosTech's platform. The post recapped lessons learned from the Calgary Summit presentation and shared deep dive insights on implementing TLS encrypted service meshes in resource-constrained edge nodes. I received dozens of comments from industry professionals, some seeking advice, others offering partnership proposals. Publishing that post felt like a full-circle triumph, from overlooked architect at Pacifica Dynamics to celebrated thought leader in cloud edge computing. On Friday evening, as I packed for my trip to Hong Kong, Jordan surprised me with a celebratory dinner at our favorite rooftop restaurant. Between bites of sushi and sips of champagne, we toasted to a career reborn, one driven by merit, guided by integrity, and enriched by the success of those I mentored. In that moment, I understood that true leadership is not merely a title or a position, but the legacy we leave in the people and organizations we uplift.